Almost every range, environment, and target size that can be anticipated is pitted against the muzzles of the great arsenal that the Orions have. Marlock is waved over by the quartermaster, Abertha. She had similar bone protrusions as him and skin colour, although having a long neck-length black hair and wearing an apron over working jeans and shirt. She was of the same race. He follows her over and in through a private workshop belonging to her. Weapons, armour and ammunition pieces organised in shelves and boxes secured by lock and key, all accessible to her and her alone. She had the run of this place. Out for the rough task of flushing out rebels, eh, Marlock? Marlock grunts in agreement. Yeah, I feel like I am not needed, but orders are orders. You know, Decimus sees you as one of his best soldiers. He wasn't mad when you declined his offers to become his first officer. He understood your reasoning. Simple. I go out, I take out whoever is giving us trouble, and come back to some nice grub, and watch the games. Remarking of how simple he wanted his career to be, they both approached a locker. It was heavily sealed, but it had his name on it. Abertha inserted one of many keys on her belt and opens it up. As the dust comes out of the locker, it revealed a suit of armour, much different than any that has been seen before, though matched the proportions of the guards that were with Decimus. Its colour was an unsaturated bronze, and it had orange trims adorned. It also carried lights. It was a shield generator that projected a shield around it, and it was the colour red when it was agitated. The good old Reaver armour. One of the best suits of the Orion Empire, wouldn't you say? Abertha so enthusiastically comments as she brings out it piece by piece. Marlock, without pause, immediately begins to fit himself into the suit, and then he was handed the main rifle wielded by Decimus's guards from Abertha. I'll see you out as usual. Marlock smiled as he is accompanied by Abertha, who hands him his helmet that he left behind. He placed it on his head, and the hiss of pressurization as his suit becomes its own containment unit puffed out steam and any other foreign bodies it needed not. The pair head towards the exit of the armory, and Abertha, both locking the doors behind her, prevents him from starting the car. You forgot this, lending him a grenade to attach to his utility belt. Marlock activates the car and gives a nod before proceeding to the hangar. 5 minutes later, he arrives. Before he even entered, you could tell that this was a different room, one of grand importance. The door was heavily guarded by security personnel. This one was massive, more bigger than any others before. So massive, land vehicles and perhaps even the ships inside could come out this way. But for what reason? Why would they? To the spine, of course. That is of course used for transporting vehicles as well. One word to describe this hangar as the door begins to open. It's stupendous. Now apply that word to its size. It's so vast because of how much it needs to hold, and for all the amenities required to upkeep both the troops and the vehicles, both aerial and land. Not even counting personnel and space for when the transports would have to be fitted with both weapons and vehicles. Walls lined with pipes and cables covered in shielding for protection connect the hangar opening. It was a force field separating the crew from the great beyond. No one is worried of a breach, even if the shield failed, since the ship's outer shielding that covers the hull also acts as a failsafe. And if that were to fail, a safety protocol will magnetize the crew to the floor via the boots, while the doors that are projected alongside the field would close. Contained in the hangar are starfighters and transports of varying numbers and sizes, large enough that you won't be questioned imagining that if the entire population of this ship would gather here, they would still have room to spare. Near the vast bay doors stands a transport different from the others. It was a glossy red frame and broad stroking wings. Each carried a large cylindrical engine and multiple cannons and missile pods. Silver and golden trimmings complement the wings, giving them an impression of a flaming silhouette. The ship had a name plastered alongside it, the Firebird. It would pass as a phoenix whilst in the sky. A group of troops, fully kitted in combat armour, similar to the guards of Decimus, are standing close by the transport, though other striking members of the group include a beastly-looking individual, with double-jointed legs like a sauropod and a humanoid upper body. The skin was a thick black hide with studs of hardened scales at the joints. Patterns of red stripes adorn the exposed biceps and neck, yet the most striking feature are two front-facing serrated horns, curved like sickles and sharp enough to impale. They're attached to the face of a predatory animal, sparking canines and stunted nose. Known as Denasia, their race serves as one of the main contributors to the Orion military, acting as the main shock force with their armour, weaponry, and overall monstrous appearance. It would be hard-pressed to face such a soldier and not be intimidated. That isn't mentioning their height, around 9 feet tall in the armour this one was wearing. Despite that, there are two other members taller by a head than this one. One scaled a dark blue, while the other a white, and both sprouting horns, placed in different locations on their head, distinguished each other. Although both wearing similar red armour with silver plating, appearing more like ancient statues wielding weapons of large maces on their backs, and in their arms a heavy-barreled machine gun that should quite frankly belong mounted on the Firebird. Round pauldrons encompass their broad shoulders and upper backs. A ballistic cloak acting as a cape would also cover their rears. On their right side of the chest, a badge displaying the rank of Justicar, engraved on a silver plate covering the judge's mallard that signified their cultural role as squad leaders and law enforcement, judging the next actions of those placed under their jurisdiction. Their race is that of the Yorbrael, from their homeworld of Braylor, where their brother kings, known as Raman and Vakan, also known as the Judgment Brothers, provided the laws and stability to the Orion Empire's loyal subjects. Marlock closes the distance, and when one notices him, they nudge to another, until they all observe him coming their way. He is met with a cheer and a wave from a couple of the soldiers about him, responding with a laugh and shaking the hands of a few. Their attention is stolen by a gust of wind and a silhouette quickly flying above them. As it clears the glare of the lights and lands in front of the group, it is revealed to be Decimus, now adorned in his own form of combat armour, serrated plating covering his legs and arms, folding his wings onto his pauldrons that sprouted horns that almost looked like that of the Denashars. His chest plate was simple in design except for one part. A glowing pool of energy at its centre. The armour itself is coloured in a jet black with accents of red and orange, and the lights accompanied on the armour red to match. The group performed the signature Orion salute to their warship's captain. I'll make this quick for you all. As you know, we'll be dropping down to the nearest settlement, where the signal from the expeditionary ship was last heard from. We'll ask the locals regarding the event, and any detail will be helpful. Even the weather may have played a part, but we're going down under the assumption that the ship itself has crashed and no means of communication. We have transports at the ready to extract any personnel of importance if discovered. Marlock here will help form a patrol for any suspicious activity. Carstall, you're in charge of Group Alpha. Marstel, Group Beta. Any questions? A few seconds of silence was all that was needed to pass on the readiness to go. The task force of 60 enter the Firebird. As its door closes, the engines ignite in a thunderous howl, and jets of plasma spew out, lifting the transport vertically before flying outside the shields into the great beyond. It bears down towards the planet, entering its atmosphere. Marlock and Decimus remain almost still, while the others shake wildly in their seats, despite being fastened. Both of them had gotten used to orbital insertions, to the point they counterbalance every bit of turbulence. Radio chatter between the pilot and Decimus is drowned out by the thunderous roar of the engines and shaking of equipment on each soldier. 2 minutes later, the transport begins to slow, nearing the ground, and steadily deploys its landing gear. Commander, you think the expeditionary crew just didn't want to leave this planet? Asked the pilot. What makes you say that? Replied Decimus, looking at Marlock and shrugging. It becomes clear, as the hatch opens to reveal the world. They've been so bold as to claim a name for it before even landing on it.